Coming up on today's video, crucial injury updates from all 20 Premier League teams, my updated Game Week 8 wildcard draft, which Spurs players you should buy, and much more. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan. It's time to make those final decisions ahead of Game Week 8. Okay, so first of all, I should say I am pretty ill today, so apologies if we're not at 100%, but we're going to do our best to get through this one regardless. And the good news is we have actually got a lot of really good injury news this week, a lot of very clear stuff. So let's go through all of that, all 20 teams. I'm sure there's some teams you guys are looking forward to, but we've got to start with the first fixture, which is Spurs against West Ham. And Son and Richarlison are both expected to be available. They've trained in full this week, so good news there if you do have either of those players. Bergvall has recovered from injury that he sustained in Sweden, and Johnson's Wales substitution was precautionary. He's going to be absolutely fine going into this week. No concerns there. For West Ham, Fulkrug is still out with that Achilles injury. Alvarez is returning late from international duty, so he may not be available given this is the early fixture, but everyone else is actually available for West Ham, so good news there. For Fulham, Castagna and Lukic have picked up injuries on international duty, which means Fulham's perfect injury record is a thing of the past. Anderson, however, is fine and available. Vinicius and Cuenca are presumably going to be still out. For Aston Villa, real good news here. Konsa, Onana and McGinn have been training normally this week, so if you are a Konsa owner, brilliant stuff there. That's going to be good for you. But also, what's even more interesting is that Kamara and Mings, having been playing with the under-21s, they are now available. They're set to make the squad this week, and that's going to be a huge boost for Aston Villa's defence, who have struggled at times this season. So clean sheets could be back on the cards for Aston Villa. How about that one? Olsen is the only player who is 100% out for Aston Villa. So yeah, looking really good there. They're playing against Fulham, and they're becoming the new Fulham, new full bill of health coming very soon. For Ipswich, this is a really strange one. Tuanzebe has apparently had a real freak injury at home, and he almost lost his thumb, and he's going to be out for months. I don't know any more details about that one. Guys, any Ipswich fans can fill us in on what's gone on there. I would love to hear about that. But yeah, strange one. So he's going to be out for a while. That could be good news for Ben Johnson, who should be deputising at right back and maybe getting some decent playtime. Kajust and Luongo are still out, and O'Shea is going to have a late assessment for Ipswich. Their opposition's Everton. Well, Mikolenko is looking good. Apparently, he could play, so good news there. Branthwaite is going to be a late call, but he may not be risked, unfortunately. And Broja, Chamiti, Garner, and Irabunum and Patterson as well, are all still out. For Manchester United, a bit of a surprise here as Mazraoui is fully fit and available to play, as is Garnacho, Ahmad and Agate, all having trained this week. Mainu and Maguire, unfortunately, are going to be both out with muscle injuries, and Shaw, he is back in training, but he's not quite ready to play. But we could see Shaw coming back reasonably soon. For Brentford, Wissa has returned to training ahead of schedule and could actually play. Yes, Wissa could be back on the cards very soon. He's going to be a fabulous option at that price tag. Damsgaard and Norgard are available despite withdrawing from the Denmark squad, and Henry, Jensen, Nunez and Thiago are back on grass but are unavailable to start this game week. So let's move on. For Newcastle, Isak has trained and is in contention to play following that toe injury. However, Wilson may need an extra week or two before returning with his back injury. Trippier is going to be out for a few weeks. And for Brighton, Adingra, Van Hecke and Rutter are back in training and available. So that's going to be a big boost having Van Hecke back. Webster has picked up a hamstring injury, so maybe that's in a way good timing. Hecke returns, Webster goes out. You know, at least Brighton have some centre-back coverage there. And João Pedro, Milner and O'Reilly remain out. The next fixture is Southampton versus Leicester, clash of the newly promoted teams, and 4.6 million legend Stewart has picked up a hamstring injury, so he is going to be unavailable. Smallbone and Sulemana are available, however, following their injuries, and Dibbling, if anyone has Dibbling, 4.5 million midfielder, he is also fit and available. For Leicester, Vestergaard is now fully available, having played for Denmark over the international break. Daka is still a few weeks away, and Stolazic and Chowdhury are still out. And here's the big one, guys. Bournemouth, first of all, Adams has been back in training and could get some minutes, and Kirkes is fine following an international break scare. But you guys want to hear about Arsenal, and unfortunately, we've had lots of really clear news from a lot of the managers this week. Arteta was not one of them. So let me just tell you what has been said, and I guess you can make your own judgments. I'll try and give my opinion as well, though. But Saka's injury is not serious. So we know that now. That has been verified. We had an idea about that before, to be fair. And he has been in training this week. So I think that's good news for Saka, and I think there's a very good chance he does start against Bournemouth. Havertz apparently has had a few issues, but also has a good chance to play if he trains well. Obviously, Arsenal will be training today. They may have already trained by the time this video comes out, so we will be keeping an eye on things tonight and tomorrow morning before we make any final decisions on Saka and Havertz. We do have a few spies in Bournemouth who might be able to let us know if these players are with the squad in the team hotel. Martinelli is also going to be assessed, and Timber and White are apparently close, but no guarantee for game time for them either. So Arteta, I know he doesn't owe us anything as FPL managers, but man, is he frustrating at the moment. It's like Arsenal are purposely trying to keep things mysterious. None of these players were photographed training, even though we know now that they have trained. So it seems like a little bit of the dark arts. I cannot blame Arsenal. I cannot blame Arteta at all. But man, come on. We, as FPL managers, we need a bit more than this, right, guys? But there we go. Arteta, the villain of the FPL world. Maybe Pep Guardiola, his title as the FPL manager's worst enemy has been taken over by Arteta here. But for the record, I think Saka should be good. I think Havertz has a very, very good chance as well. I'm not too worried about either of these players. As long as you have some cover on the bench, I think we should be fine there. For Wolves, Hwang picked up an ankle injury whilst playing for Korea, so good news for the minutes of Strand Larsen and Cunha. Traore is likely to be out until Christmas, and Mosquera, Kalajdzic and Gonzalez are out long term. Man City, De Bruyne and Ake are not ready for a start yet. Good news for Phil Foden if you fancy taking a punt there. And I don't know if this is too much of a concern, but I did want to flag this anyway. Ederson and Savinho have not yet returned to training following international duty, and Walker and Akanji were also not in training today. They've been given some time off. So yeah, Man City do play on Sunday in fairness, but I feel like I should at least warn you guys about this. You know, just let you know that this is something that is going on right now, particularly if you are maybe a Savinho owner. That may be of some concern to you guys, but just wanted to put that one out there. I don't know if it's a huge concern, but good to know. For Liverpool, Alisson will be out for the upcoming weeks with a hamstring injury. I think that might be a bit of an understatement from manager Arne Slot. He could be out for well over a month, to be honest. So he's definitely a player I would sell if I had him in FPL. Chiesa and Elliott are also presumably out, but I'm not 100% sure. Difficult to find information on them, but no news of their return there. Endo, McAllister and Tsimikas were also all name-checked as having minor issues whilst playing for their international teams. So, yeah, maybe some concern there. Not sure. It does depend. We'll see, I suppose. But, again, this is a Sunday game, so a little bit of time to recover for these international playing players. For Chelsea, Reece James has returned to training and is available this game week. So, big warning to all of you guys. Be careful. If you are thinking about going for Reece James, please be very, very careful here. Chukwuemeka is also back following illness, and Cucurella and Fofana are both suspended. So I do wonder if Liverpool could manage to get a goal or two against Chelsea, given the suspensions in the defensive areas. But we'll move on to the last game, the Monday fixture. And that is going to be Nottingham Forest against Palace. And Forest, well, Gibbs White is suspended for game week 8, but fear not, he was injured anyway. Pretty good time to get suspended when he is injured anyway, I suppose. Ward-Prowse is also suspended, and Sells, he was not mentioned in the injury conversation, and I believe he was spotted in training as well. I'm not 100% it was him, but I think it's quite likely it was him. So I think Sells is going to be fine. I know some people were a little bit worried about him, but yeah, I think you're good there, Sells owners. And for Palace, Munoz and Wharton returned to training yesterday, should be available. Frank and Riyad and probably Richards are out, and Decore could be potentially back this week for Palace. So going through my predictions for this week's games, I'm thinking there might be a few draws this week. Ipswich, Everton, Fulham, Villa, Man United, Brentford. I think they could all be very, very tight games. Although I do think Spurs should win Newcastle. I'm backing Leicester in that particular battle. And outside of that, Arsenal, City, Liverpool. These big teams, you have to predict they're going to win pretty much every single game week unless they're playing each other. So those are my predictions for this week for who will win each game. And if you think you can predict results better than me, get involved in my Sleeper Prediction League. We're giving out huge prizes every single month. And by the way, guys, if you were involved in last month's competition, reply to your messages. I want to give you your prizes. Let me. But yeah, get involved. Link at the top of the description. It's really, really easy, completely 100% free. You can also use this beautiful QR code to join the Premier League predictions. And if you fancy some European action, then why not check out the European Prediction League as well. Huge prizes on offer for all of these leagues, and it's completely free. So no reason not to get involved. Get involved. Link description. Go. Okay, so just looking through the clean sheet odds for Game Week 8, and we do see Man City and Arsenal the clear two top favourite teams for clean sheets, basically, this week. So if you've got Lewis, Gvardiol, Raya, Saliba, Gabriel, these are all going to be really good players to have for this game week. Really, really nice clean sheet odds there. But there are a few other teams that could potentially get a clean sheet. Forest, Spurs and Manchester United all have between 28 and 31% chance of a clean sheet, according to our spread market data, which is very, very useful to get an objective point of view of how likely clean sheets are. We also got teams like Liverpool here. Despite a difficult fixture against Chelsea, a 27% chance of a clean sheet is pretty good, actually. So I don't think I'd be rushing to sell any of those Liverpool players quite yet. But maybe if you have multiple defenders and you're not sure who to play and who to bench, using this prediction model of who is likely to get the clean sheets might help you to make those decisions on who to play, who to bench, and maybe might help you make some transfer decisions as well. But in general, a lot of the defenders we are all going to have already sit towards the top of this list. You know, even Crystal Palace, if you've got Henderson in there in your goal, then 25% is fine. The real worries are Wolves, right at the bottom, 8% chance of a clean sheet. West Ham, Chelsea, Brentford, and Bournemouth. Those are the big concerns there. Maybe Brighton as well. But there you go. Those are the odds for clean sheets. What about goal scorers? Well, I've picked out the players most likely to score in Game Week 8. Again, using the same methods of spread betting markets to try and get the best information possible. And of course, this isn't binary. This isn't will the player score, yes or no. This is a projection, really. So really useful method. This is a proven method that really works when trying to predict over the long term. You're not going to get it exactly right every single game week, but on balance, on average, it is going to be really, really spot on. So I really like this method, and I think you guys are going to like it too. But Erling Haaland, he is projected to score over 1 goal this game week. So captain decision made pretty easy there. Outside of that, Solanke is number 2 here, 0.67 projected goals. So he should be a player on everyone's radar. If you do still have Isak, he's projected 0.63 goals this week. So really nice there if you have managed to hold on to him. Then we've got players like Salah and Son, not too bad here. Gordon and Wood below him. And we do see players like Calvert-Lewin, Vardy, Delap, and maybe Foden as well, all making up the most likely players to score in Game Week 8. So that's not too bad. There are some other players slightly lower that just missed out on these top positions, like Saka and Brennan Johnson, all pretty likely to score as well. So yeah, no real concern there. But if you're looking for the most likely players to score, Game Week 8, there you have them. Now, I know we're looking at a lot of Spurs players at the moment, so I thought we would have a look at the stats for these Spurs players. And I've put the stats per start. I think it's a pretty fair way of doing things. And what we see is Solanke is right here at the top. So we saw on the previous page, he has the best goal scoring odds, but he's also putting up the best numbers here so far this season with 2.6 shots per game, 0.68 expected goals per game. This is lovely stuff. After that, we have the likes of Maddison and Johnson. And the thing is, they're pretty close. Maddison is just ahead of Johnson, so it maybe offers you a little bit more stability. But given that Johnson is almost 1 million cheaper, it might be worth just going for Johnson if you are looking for a new Spurs midfielder here, because the numbers are very close. Johnson's form is very good as well in recent game weeks. 7 goals in 7 games in all competitions now, including for Wales. So, yeah, that's pretty good. But Son actually below both Maddison and Johnson, and what we've really seen here is Son has put up the best numbers when Solanke has been out and Son is playing as the central striker. He basically has next to zero goal threat when he's played on the wing so far this season. So I am a little bit worried. I know people will be tempted by Son given his history, but particularly under Ange Postecoglou, the times we've seen Son at his best as an FPL asset is when he is playing as the central striker. And given Solanke's availability, that's just not going to happen right now. Another interesting thing here is Romero, Pedro Porro, Van der Ven. Of course, Van der Ven is going to be putting up the worst numbers here, but Romero actually putting up slightly better attacking numbers as Pedro Porro, who has been playing in a little bit more of a defensive role recently, and Maddison is taking all of his set pieces. So, yeah, I've put Spurs' defensive numbers at the bottom. They're actually not too bad. Likely to get a clean sheet every 3 games, which is pretty nice. But what I see in general here is maybe Pedro Porro is not worth it. And the final note on Spurs assets is Kulusevski. I know people will try and throw Kulusevski into the conversation with Maddison and Johnson, but what we've seen so far suggests that Kulusevski is very much in the tier below in terms of those FPL assets you want to go for. So all about Maddison and Johnson, Solanke of course for a forward, Son if you're brave, and maybe Romero could be the defender to go for after all. I also made this graphic this week. Yes, new week, new graphics. And I thought what we try and do is try and look at all of the big premium players and block out when they have a good run of fixtures. So this is not looking at individual fixtures when a team has good individual fixtures, but rather when a team has a good block of fixtures. So for example, Haaland's got a really nice block of fixtures in the next 4. Game week 8 to 11, he plays Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth and Brighton. And on balance, that's a nice block. After that, there's no real good run of fixtures there for Haaland. So does that mean we could potentially sell him in game week 12? It is definitely a possibility. I don't know if I'm brave enough, but it's a possibility. Then we have players like Salah. Now, Salah doesn't really have many big blocks of good fixtures until game week 18 and beyond. And by the way, Haaland's got really nice fixtures from 18 and beyond as well. But I wanted to look in this kind of medium term, first of all, next 10 game weeks. And Salah's got that nice block between 10 and 12, but outside of that, not really. So if you do have Salah in your team right now, it might be worth holding on to him for that 10 to 12 block and then maybe making a switch to one of Palmer or Saka, because from game week 12-13, Palmer and Saka both have these really nice long blocks of solid fixtures that looks really good. So there's some good opportunities there for you guys to make a switch from a Salah and Haaland-based team to a Palmer and a Saka-based team. Now, we mentioned Son as not being the greatest of FPL assets right now, but what he does have is that great block of fixtures over the next 4. After that, another player who can be switched to a Palmer or a Saka. And as for Watkins, not looking great in the immediate term, but game week 12 onwards, again, nice block there. One thing that I think is very obvious when you look at a graphic like this is there is seemingly a big swing in 12 where we go from Haaland, well, I guess Man City, Liverpool and Spurs mode to Chelsea, Arsenal and Aston Villa mode very, very quickly. All of the teams seem to switch whether they have good or bad fixtures. So I think that opens a real nice opportunity to either wildcard in 12 or save those transfers with the intention of making a big premium player switcheroo in game week 12 and beyond. And maybe that applies to players like Foden and Trent and Jackson, Havertz, Solanke, these players just below the premium level. It maybe applies to those as well as players you'd like to own for certain periods of time. So I think this is really interesting. If you have Salah, I would keep him. If you have Saka or Palmer, it's probably worth holding on to them because game week 12 is not too far away. If you have a player like Son, again, you keep him, but you look at particularly Son and Salah, and there's an obvious time to switch them to someone else. Foden as well. If you're going for Foden this week, you can switch him out in 12 for a Palmer or a Saka, and that works really nicely. So yeah, just found this interesting, so I thought I would make a little graphic for you. And based on this, a Gameweek 12 Wildcard, I think it would look something like this. So, as I kind of mentioned, we'd be looking to get Arsenal players in. We'd be looking to have, you know, a Palmer in there, maybe some Aston Villa as well. Wolves are a team we know have good fixtures as well from there. Bournemouth, interestingly good there as well. So, for a Gameweek 12 Wildcard, or maybe, I guess, more a team that we would all like to have by Game Week 12 would look something a little bit like this. So it's Raya in goal, Gabriel in defence, and I've put Robinson and Lewis in defence there as well. I guess these are more optional players. We've got Saka and Palmer in midfield with Mbeumo, complemented by Rodgers and Semenyo. And then we've got Haaland and Cunha up front. On the bench, we've got João Pedro and Aït-Nouri and some 4 million duds there as well. And I'm not saying that this is exactly the team we would want in Game Week 12, but I think structurally, presuming you are not brave enough to go without Haaland, I would also try and make sure you have both Saka and Palmer for their great fixtures. And kind of that would be the start of your structure. Haaland, Saka, Palmer. Hopefully at least one Arsenal defensive asset in there as well. And teams like Liverpool, maybe don't invest in them so much. Spurs Players, probably not going to be in a Game Week 12 wildcard team. Even Man City, we've got Lewis in here. That's only really because of his cheap price tag. There are definitely some other options you could go for as well. I wouldn't be looking to spend too much on Man City or Liverpool or Spurs, basically, from Game Week 12 onwards. And that's all kind of come from our fixture runs kind of data that we saw just a second ago. And if you're wildcarding in Game Week 8, I think a team would look a little bit like this. So quite different, actually, because we would want Spurs and Man City really for this next block of 4 fixtures, and maybe supplement that with some players that we do want longer term, like you've got a Raya there, we've got Palmer there, and Mbeumo there as well. Rodgers, nice longer term option. Aït-Nouri on the bench, better for game week kind of 9 onwards, I suppose. We've got Semenyo, who's nice from 12 onwards. So I tried to create a bit of a balance here for a Game Week 8 wildcard team where we have focus a little bit on the short term, but also have those long term wildcard 12 type players in there as well. And let's round this video off with a look at the Fantasy Football Hub top predicted points. Of course, guys, always you can always check out Fantasy Football Hub. There's always a link in the description for their tools as well if you would like to see them. But Salah, interestingly, is coming up with the highest predicted points for this game week. I guess that's because of his assist potential, and the fact he's playing at home is going to boost his predicted points tally based on the Hub algorithm. Remember, guys, this is a different model from the one I was showing earlier. I do like to have a look at multiple different statistical analytical models when making FPL decisions to try and get more of a balance. But we've got Haaland up here as well, 8.1 predicted points. So Salah and Haaland, the standouts. I would say that Haaland is the main standout, but Salah is predicted well here as well. And we've got Palmer and Isak coming in third and fourth, but there is a bit of a gap there between the two big guys and then Palmer and Isak. So if you're looking for a captain this week, Haaland is your guy. If you have to go differential, I suppose Salah is your guy, but I don't think I'd go anywhere outside of that, because looking through all of the stuff that we've got this week, I mean, it really is pointing mostly to Haaland, and, you know, this is pointing to Salah as well. Nothing's really pointing to any other players when we've looked through our points predictions, our goals predictions, etc., etc. So, yeah, hopefully that should be a pretty easy decision this week. But there we go, guys. We're going to wrap things up. Thank you so much for watching. I think we got through this video pretty well. Do leave a like. Would massively appreciate that. Subscribe if you are new around here as well. And I will see you tomorrow for a stream if I'm well enough. I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.